And here I am walking the mean streets of the Tenderloin. I worked in this neighborhood on this street for 13 years total. I was a program director with a large social service agency, and those were very good and fulfilling years. I know this neighborhood very well. It's rough, lots of rough characters, high crime, but there's a lot of good people in this neighborhood too, and I knew and worked with many of them. Here's the program that I worked at, where I was program director, total of 13 years. It's part of a large social service agency called Compass. This corner where I was walking up here back to work one day after lunch, and some guy punched me in the jaw, complete stranger punched me in the jaw. Oh, I had lots of misadventures here in the Tenderloin. Oh, I remember one time there was a police chase right up here, one block up here, and the car that was being chased slammed, they're going at very high speed, slammed into this elderly woman. I saw her go flying into the air and crash down onto the sidewalk. And then a denizen of here, of this Tenderloin neighborhood, all he saw, he didn't see her. All he saw was her purse flying up in the air, and he went and grabbed that purse and ran out so fast. I'll never forget that. Her flying in the air, and that SOB making a beeline for her purse while she lay there sprawled out on the sidewalk. This is a rough neighborhood. And then there was, of course, lots of dealings with Child Protective Services, CPS. I don't want to really go into that, but I saw a lot in my 13 years here in the rough streets of the Tenderloin. Man, I just walked up that street and I do not feel safe filming on that block. A lot of ugliness. I'm at the corner of Leavenworth and Ellis right now, going uphill. These streets are mean and sometimes nasty. But as I said, I also loved this neighborhood, was proud to work in this neighborhood, and wouldn't change that for the world. It's a great experience. I used to have a friend who lived on this block, McAllister. He had been a successful comedian, but then went on the skids, broke, homeless, alcoholic, chronic smoker, developed throat cancer. Anyway, he ended up in one of these SRO, single residency occupancy hotels, with a bathroom shared bathroom down the hall. The room itself was depressing. Boy, and it was like had 200 years of cigarette smoke embedded in the walls. Anyway, this is where he died. This is the kind of neighborhood where people on the skids who've ruined their life end up in this neighborhood. Unfortunately, see a lot of it. Now we've arrived at Geary Street. Geary is the border between, one of the borders between the Tenderloin and downtown. And if we keep going up this street, up this hill, we'll get up to Nob Hill. Neighborhoods transition so quickly in San Francisco. Now we're walking by a very nice upscale apartment building as we head uphill towards Nob Hill. And as we climb up the hill towards Nob Hill, what I realized we're doing, we're going from poor back down in the Tenderloin neighborhood and going uphill to rich, Nob Hill. See that tall building in the background? That's, I believe it's called Salesforce building. But the skyline of San Francisco has certainly changed and grown. You know, I moved to San Francisco in, drum roll, the year 1975. God, that seems like centuries ago. But yeah, 1975, way before the tech boom. And it was a great town then, and it's a great town now. And I will always have a special place for San Francisco in my life. You know, back there when I was walking through the mean streets of the Tenderloin district, I was thinking, I feel more insecure and more threatened here in the Tenderloin, San Francisco, United States, than I do walking the streets of Bahia, Brazil. I think what is different here, well, I've experienced a hell of a lot more crime here than I've ever experienced in Brazil. That's maybe one reason. The other one, though, that here there's an element of crazy. Of course, in Brazil, you have your street people and your homeless, panhandlers, etc. But there's not that element of crazy that you find in the streets of the United States. And I guess that's why I felt more nervous walking here in one of San Francisco's ghettos than I feel walking in a Brazilian favela. Oh man, these hills, San Francisco hills, are steep and they keep going. Oh well, I guess it's worth it to climb up to the top of Nob Hill for old time's sake. When I first moved to San Francisco for the very first time, way back in the summer of 1975, I rented an apartment on Lower Nob Hill. Yeah. What's it, Sacramento Street? And I forget the cross street, but that's where I thought was one of the places to be. And I quickly learned, yeah, Nob Hill area is okay if you're white and you're cisgender, straight, but it wasn't for me. And after less than a year, I ended up in the neighborhoods that would become the neighborhoods that I most love in San Francisco. First, the Haight District, where we went, and the Mission District. And so this area of San Francisco, which is the tourist area of San Francisco, a lot of San Franciscans don't spend a lot of time in this area. Am I the only person crazy enough to walk up this hill? Well, I see two looks like little old ladies walking down. They're smarter than I am. I'm going in the wrong direction. Oh Lord, people, I can't believe I'm doing this, walking up this hill. Well, this particular block is the last block before reaching the top, Nob Hill, the cable car that goes over California Street and points beyond. But we're just going as far as Nob Hill. If I can make it up this flight of stairs, we'll see. You see, San Francisco's go down the stairs, but I'm the only one stupid enough to be walking up the stairs, up the streets. What is the saying? Mad dogs and Englishmen, only mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. Maybe I'm the only one who climbs these streets. I should be taking a cable car up the street and then walking down. Lord have mercy, we made it. We got to the top of Nob Hill and looked down that street. That's where we came from. Way down there, the street in front of us are the mean streets of the Tenderloin. But now we're in the lofty skies, rarefied air of Nob Hill. You can see that brown mansion in front of us. And here is Grace Cathedral. Let's cross. And look at this cool sign right here outside of Grace Episcopal Cathedral. All non-binary, lesbian, bisexual, he, him, queer, LGBTQIA, God loves everyone without exception. Amen. And this is another reason why I love San Francisco. All are welcome. Several of San Francisco's grand hotels are up here, one of them right in front of us with all of those flags over the front entranceway. There's another big fancy hotel there. And this is the, what's the name of this mansion? A famous mansion. Here at the top of Nob Hill. And well, look at that. At the top of this Nob Hill, we've been rewarded with this amazing view of San Francisco Bay. It is foggy. I see this church. What name of that church in North Beach? I love that church. I can't remember the name of it. There's Alcatraz Island out there. Very nice, but kind of foggy as usual. Is that the Crocker Mansion? Oh, I can't remember, but I believe it survived the San Francisco earthquake. 1906, 1907? It's a survivor. There's the cathedral. And now we're walking down California Street from Nob Hill down to Polk Street. Polk Street, when I was 20 years old and moved to San Francisco for the first time in 1975, the summer of 75. Polk Street was where it was happening. Polk Street was the center of LGBTQ movement, population, the scene here in San Francisco. And I moved to an apartment just a couple of blocks above Polk Street on Lower Nob Hill. I think it was right here at Hyde in Sacramento, the next street over. Anyway, Polk Street was a happening street. This is where the early gay pride parade started, and there were 2 or 3 gay bars on every single block of Polk Street, up and down the street for 20 blocks. It was amazing. But then everything started to shift to Castro Street. And Castro District, corner of 18th and Castro, became the center of the universe. And Polk Street started to decline, and it got pretty grim in the 1980s. I remember it kind of looked like the extension of the Tenderloin district. And all of the bars disappeared. I believe there might be one bar, gay bar, on Polk Street. Maybe. I think I might have heard that it closed though. So it's rather sad. But the street itself is thriving now. It's revived. It's just not gay anymore. Polk Street now. Here comes the cable car climbing up, starting its ride up the hill to Nob Hill at the top of the hill. Cable cars are totally a tourist thing. But when I moved here in 1975, when old grandpa here moved here, cable cars were a real form of public transportation. And I used to take the cable car every day from my home about 2 to 3 blocks from here over to downtown on the cable car, and that was my mode of transportation. Now, you know, it's really hard to get on a cable car. You have to compete with all the tourists, and they're expensive. It's not the same. Thank God we still have them though. Wow, you know, I first moved here in 1975, and now it's 2025. So that means 50 years ago, exactly 50 years ago, the summer of 1975, I first moved to San Francisco, right in this neighborhood. This is the street that I walk up and down every day. Boy, oh boy, 50 years. I moved here when I was 20, transferred to San Francisco State University, and the rest is history. And there were 50 good years. The street looks largely the same, but the businesses, of course, are all completely different. All of the gay, as I mentioned, all of the gay businesses are gone. All of the historic venues. Farther down the street is kind of turned into a Vietnamese district, which is good. I think it's called Little Saigon. Lots of Vietnamese restaurants and businesses. Dilly Fish and Chips. I remember this little shop from 50 years ago. Yep, 1975. This place was in business and still is. And that Maze cocktail seafood restaurant. Maze was there 50 years ago when I got here in the summer of 75. Okay, well, I can recognize 2 or 3 different places. Hey, we're back at City Hall now, Civic Center, I should say, where we started. And I just want to say, oh, here comes an ambulance. Just wanted to say thank you all for joining me on this walk through the Tenderloin up to Nob Hill and back down again along Polk Street. It's kind of a walk down memory lane for me. Thanks for joining me today. And as always,